So, Brill, a seaside resort in decline, one of our main towns, population about 27,000 people, but like so many seaside resorts, suffering from lack of investment, the advent of cheap holidays to the sun, and then that resulting in a sort of spiral of decline, whereby we started to, if you like, knock ourselves, to have a lack of confidence, despite the fact we have, as this slide shows, 7 miles of sandy beaches, very popular resort, full of entertainment. But we were starting to slip into this spiral of gloom and doom. Holyhead, very much a ferry port, and like many ports, somewhere that people hurry straight through. And here's a picture of some people hurrying straight through. But actually, to tell the truth, they were hurrying into Holyhead to a rather nice cafe that's in town there. But the slide was just to illustrate the point. And that's a shame, because Holyhead is sat on Holy Island, and it is an island of enormous beauty. It has a hinterland full of archaeological remains, of standing stones, of hut circles that were inhabited from Stone Age through to Bronze Age, and it's really quite a stunning setting for Holyhead. Holyhead is the focus of that, but that was kind of getting forgotten amongst the other things. And again with the Thigh, a canal and river town, somehow a feeling that it wasn't quite fulfilling the potential that it could, given its location fairly close to Dublin, close to good roads. It has the river, it has a canal, bridge over the river here. It's a really nice town. But in common with us, sharing a little bit of lack of confidence, lack of focus, despite the fact they have some fantastic events. I mean, Patricia will tell you more about that this afternoon. But does anybody not know that the ploughing championships happen in Athy? I mean, they have great TV coverage, and they also have things like Tri-Athy, where thousands of people arrive in the town. And I think this guy's very brave to be jumping into the river, but there you go. So again, that's the same shared lack of confidence. And Dunleary, full of characters, full of aspirations, but perhaps lacking a little focus, a clear focus to sell itself to the world. What it should say, what's its vision, what's its message. So that's where we are. 2 towns in North Wales and 2 in Ireland. So 4 towns, shared problems of identity and perception, but what we shared, as well as that, was a determination to do something. We were trying to survive in some of the worst economic conditions ever seen. I don't know about you, but they're certainly the worst I've seen, and let's hope they get better. But we were determined not to sink. We wanted to do something. It's too easy to sit on your laurels and just say, oh well, it's someone else's fault. We wanted to do something. Problem was, the reputation of the towns had got out of step with what was happening on the ground. We were having really bad headlines, and these are some from Brill. I mean, you really don't need that. You do not want to open your newspaper in the morning and read bad headlines. But hey, hang on a minute, all towns have problems. We're not alone in that. But our reputation was almost running out too fast ahead of us. So 4 towns in need of a fairy godmother. But, I mean, fairy godmothers apart, and I looked a long time for that slide, reputation is a really serious matter, because if you have a reputation for being an unfriendly town, for being somewhere that people don't want to invest in, for somewhere that you don't go, suddenly people start to shy away from you, and then the reputation can then become your reality. So it is a really serious business, and it's not an easy one to tackle. The reality for us, at least, was that we still had our good aspects. We still had our 7 miles of sandy beach. We still have our 1,000-seat theatre. We still had lots going on. But they were getting overlooked. And investment was happening, but it wasn't hitting the headlines in the same way. And I won't read through this slide, but you can see there that there are millions of pounds worth of investment happening in Brill. Some things were in the pipeline, some things were happening, and some have already happened. But that wasn't our reputation. And so this is a chance to set the record straight, really. Here are some examples of what was happening. About £500,000 spent on refurbishing our library. They just took the existing shell and refurbed the inside. And it's now a really exciting place to be, particularly if you're a child. The children's library is brilliant. It has child-sized furniture in sort of loops and shapes that you can sit in and just read and enjoy. And it's become much more popular because of that. About £1 million sterling spent on a BMX bike track, marsh tracks, again to engage with youth and healthy living. And about £2 million spent on refurbishing our existing cinema, a mixture of public and private money going in there. And it's now a state-of-the-art digital cinema, which we're extremely proud of. So things were happening, change was happening. The trouble is, a place is a living entity, as you can see from this thing. You can't take a place like you can take a product off the shelves, refurbish it, relaunch it, put it back. You can't do it with that. It's not a tin of beans. You know, it's evolving all the time. So this is kind of what we're all struggling with, this living identity of the places. We needed a new approach. So we created the brand project and secured the funding. And that sounds really easy, doesn't it? But as previous speakers have alluded to, it took a lot of time, it took a lot of patience, we had to get to know each other. But we did do that, finally, and secured the funding. And creating brand. Now, brand stands for something. In hindsight, we should have called it something else, but hey, that hindsight's a wonderful thing. Brand stands for bringing revitalisation and nurturing development. So it is not just a logo, it is not about a promotional campaign, it's more than that, it's longer term, it's more about harnessing a movement or starting a movement rather than doing a publicity campaign. If you think a publicity campaign can change your town, forget it, it'll be over in a flash. Now it's really important to stress, and I'm glad Simon mentioned it earlier, that we weren't grant driven so much as partnership driven. We needed each other. Now, the values of partnership are pretty obvious, but here they are. Meeting of minds, economies of scale, and an opportunity to join a larger party. I think somebody once said to me years ago, if you can't solve your problem, make it bigger. And I thought they were mad, but actually there's a kind of sense in that. If you can't solve your own problem, turn outwards and look to partners, and maybe between you can do that. So the meeting of minds, that allowed us to pool our resources, pool what we knew, and more importantly, identify what we didn't know. So between the 4 towns, we were able to find out where the gaps were in our resources, in our knowledge. That allowed us to procure the services of an expert in place branding, Thinking Place. And it was the economies of scale, obviously, and the assistance of the Island Wales programme that made that financially possible. Because on our own, as county councils, it's not our number one business, isn't place branding. We're not experts in place branding, we needed help. And certainly on our own, we could not have afforded it. I mean, that's just true. It's a fact of life. But together, we could do it. And with the support of the larger partnership. And I have to say, it was an interesting journey. It was a first for us as county councils. It was a first for Thinking Place. I hope John and Harrod won't mind me saying this. Generally speaking, a consultancy will wheel into town, deliver what they said they're going to do, and then say, thank you very much, and off they go again. We didn't actually want that. We wanted Thinking Place to help us do the work ourselves so that the work was owned in the towns. So Thinking Place more became our critical friend, our advisors. They were there on the sidelines, but they weren't actually doing the work. We were. And that did lead to quite an interesting journey. I think we both learnt a lot. We all learnt a lot. And I think Thinking Place too, because it was a first for them to have done the work that they do in 4 towns simultaneously, because we all went through this process all at the same time, pretty much, and across 2 countries. That was quite a big ask. But it was worth it, we think. Don't know how John feels about that. Okay, so what were we trying to do? Well, here's our aims. Improve the image and reputation, develop a method by which communities can be engaged with rebranding, so not just slap it on from the top. And then from that, create a sort of template or toolkit that might be useful to share with anybody else. Why did we do it? Well, to succeed, towns need to know who they are and what they stand for. And if you know that, then you're more likely to attract investment and become a more sustainable place to be. So it was based on that aim. Have we succeeded? Well, I'm hoping this conference will partly answer that question, because your input is important to us. We have done what we said in our application. We've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. We're doing what we said we'd do. We certainly learnt a lot. We laughed a lot. Some of us cried sometimes. But I think the time has come really to share that with you. So I've done my job now in setting the scene. And only time will tell, in the long run, have we harnessed that movement? Have we started that movement? Have we succeeded? And there's always some clever clogs who puts it better. So I'll leave you with Einstein. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr chi, Gyrwmil Magad.